see if we can move forward next year. She can kind of provide an update of what we've got worked out for this year, but we're still, we want to talk a little bit about next year and see what that looks like. So I'm going to just pass it over to Pam.
Sure. Well, good evening, everybody. Unfortunately, I don't have anything earth-shattering to share differently. Both Wayne and Tony know that I've done my best to work with them to put a Band-Aid on the situation for the rest of this year. We reached out to different vendors because Durham simply can't accommodate the needs earlier. I know I shared some information in an email, but I'll just clarify that we have a three-tiered transportation system. A lot of school districts use a similar system. So the buses that Durham has earmarked for our district are obviously bringing home our elementary students at the time that sometimes we have sporting events that start earlier. So that's part of the problem. The other part is nationally, and particularly in the state of Connecticut, we're really struggling with getting drivers. We were one of the fortunate districts when a lot of districts weren't even able to get kids to school for a while in the earlier days of the pandemic because of the lack of drivers. However, I've been in constant contact with Durham, and they are bringing more and more drivers on board. They recently settled a contract with the local union that represents drivers for Stratford. So they're cautiously optimistic that we'll have some more drivers coming on in the very near future. But having determined that this has been an ongoing problem long before I got here, I understand that you've always struggled with those earlier sporting events. And I think the ideas about having our own vans for the smaller teams was actually a very good one. So as we were developing the budget this year, we did two things. Those of you as board members know that in our budget we have two new positions proposed, which would be our custodian/driver positions. And we've also included two new vehicles in our capital budget. We do need the board to approve that capital budget. I know it's been with planning for a couple of months now, so I'm hoping it gets moved. I will tell you we did provide the town with a draft because they did request it, and that goes through the Public Works Director's office, and she is trying to gather some things, but it would really be helpful if the board approves it and we can send a finalized version over to the town. And depending upon where our budget ends up, we simply don't know what that's going to look like yet. If we at least get the 3.27% that the board approved and sent over to the town, those positions remain. If it's anything less than that, obviously we have to go back to the drawing board. Hopefully the positions will be retained, but we're not sure. And part of the issue that we're dealing with internally, because we do have quite a few drivers and we do have quite a few vehicles, you see them as you drive up to the meetings here in this building, is that we have been inundated with our own student needs during the day. We have a lot of homeless children that we're transporting right now, and again, that's become a statewide issue. So our drivers, my office has a schedule and it is so tight right now, so we really can't help with sporting events now. Our hope with the two new vehicles and the two new drivers is to support our STRIVE students now that we educate them through up to the age of 23, but they're usually done with their activities by about 12:30, 1 o'clock. So then those vehicles and those drivers would be available to help the high schools. So that's where we're at. And I did talk to Wayne briefly earlier today, and my only concern is if this doesn't occur through the budget process, both capital and general operating, we're going to be in the same position next year. So I'm not really sure what the perfect solution is. I mean, we are able to get other companies, but they're a lot more costly. So maybe we have to put our thinking hats right now.
Probably 3 times the cost of what Durham is right now.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. I was just going to ask a quick question. The vehicles that were requested, were these the SUVs that I'm seeing with Stratford Public Schools? Are they a true van, or are they like a small school bus?
They were going to be a small school bus that
Okay.
fits 16 seats with 2 wheelchair
Okay.
positions.
All right.
Was it, just for purposes of voting on the board, Because I know that the cost of these vehicles, a lot of it's really reallocating money that we already use in our budget for these small teams to go places. And there's some trips in that chart that I presented last time where, for example, wrestling, sometimes they take 10 kids. It's an all-day affair. It's a $900 bill, just one trip. So some of the costs, I think it's important that the board would know that. I don't know what all the numbers that were presented, but part of it is just a reallocation of what's already in our budget or already requested.
Not exactly true. There wasn't enough money from your existing budget. And don't forget, we still need those funds for fuel. We still need them for other costs associated with it. So I don't want anyone to believe that it's just completely repurposed.
No, I'm just saying some of the funds I think would be part of it.
There would be some offset costs.
Okay.
That part you're absolutely correct
Okay.
on. There
Can you
would be
share the
some offset.
incremental?
I can try. We have an estimate on the vehicles, and I'll have to get insurance costs and, the increase to our insurance and that type of thing. And the driver costs, of course, because at least half of it would be allocated to transportation.
Now, are we open to the
athletics.
idea, because I know there's other districts that do it, that certify the coaches to drive, therefore, reducing the overall cost of utilizing our own transportation?
They'd have to get the specific driver's license, and the drivers aren't as much of a struggle as the vehicles.
Yeah.
So that's my bigger concern. I really think it's critical that we help the town understand the need for those two vehicles. And it's not just athletics. I mean, that's kind of a bonus. It was like, I was sitting here when this first came to my attention, trying to troubleshoot, how can we best address this? And at the same time, the special ed director is telling me that she's struggling with getting our Strive students to where they need to be. So I kind of asked the 20 questions and realized the timing would work out perfectly as far as their needs earlier in the day. So I do hope that once the board approves this, approves the capital, we can send it over to the town with the need really being emphasized at that point. And they've been pretty supportive of our capital budgets in the past, so I hope they will continue to be.
I guess I was just thinking worst case scenario in the event that the budget does get trimmed and we lose those positions, and we were still able to get the transportation vehicles through the capital budget, that could be a fallback.
We can look into that. I would want, they'd have to have that special license through the state. They have to go through annual physicals. We have to make certain that they're keeping on top of all the requirements, and we'd have to get them insured on our policies.
Change the insurance.
Yeah, it definitely would. I mean, I don't think it would be significant, but everything has a cost, so we just have to make certain that we look at it. And again, I think from what you both have described to me, this doesn't take care of the problem completely, because these are the smaller teams. You still have meets with larger teams that we still may have to go to a DADCO. Or, I mean, best case scenario, Durham's going to get the drivers, and they're going to be able to better accommodate us. And they are going through a lot of change internally with their staffing, so perhaps they might be able to better accommodate us for these.
Have they discussed anything in terms of retention? Because I know that retaining drivers has been an issue. I don't want to go too much in detail, but
Yeah,
I've
no.
heard things off the record in terms of why drivers are leaving.
I think there's a lot of reasons. I do think money's a big part of it,
Yeah.
which is why they took a very long time. We were in negotiations with them. Not direct negotiations. It was just continuing the last 2 years of our contract with them. And they were holding off on committing to a percentage increase because they had a little wiggle room the way we negotiated the last contract, because they wanted to settle their contracts. And they knew that their union contracts were going to have to increase pay because of retention. You're exactly right. And I know some places are paying more. And we here in Stratford are part of Fairfield County, but we're not the Gold Coast, so to speak, and we're certainly not Westport. We honestly can't allow Durham to pay $100 an hour to a bus driver, because that's going to be passed on to the district, and obviously we can't afford to do that. We wouldn't agree to that kind of an increase in a bus So there's a lot of moving pieces, and sometimes some solutions sound a little bit easier than they are when in actuality when we start breaking it down. But I will try to work out those incremental costs to share with you, and
Great.
we'll try to figure out if there's the ability to have coaches maybe become drivers when we don't have a driver available.
I think the worst case scenario, and I know that there are some other districts that have done it, is they've shifted the responsibility back on the parents to get athletes to sporting events.
And that's
Our-
something
our town is
insurance
not-
saying no.
Yeah, but also our town is much different than some of the other schools within the league that we, operate in. They may have an easier time freeing up their schedules to be able to get their kids or carpool their kids to athletic events, but just food for thought what other schools are doing.
No, and I agree. I did exactly the same exercise as both our athletic directors did. I went out to other districts. The athletic directors have their association, school business officials have ours, and it's all good because we can get information from other districts and get ideas, and that's how I got the list of other bus providers to share with both Tony and Wayne to see if any of them were viable, and I know not all of them were. They weren't available. I know Danbury shared some of those, and Danbury's really large. I'm sure they took most of the availability with them. So I don't, unfortunately, I wish I could have come here with some wonderful, yes, I have this all solved. But we're just kind of inching along, and as I said to both Tony and Wayne, that I am totally able to support them through the end of this year, and I do have concerns about next year. And once again, the little bit of extra money that we're projecting for this year is because we haven't filled some positions again. And I really do believe that's not going to be the case going forward. And there is millions and millions of dollars going away through those ESSER funds this year in school districts. So all those, temporary positions, those people are going to be looking for jobs. So I just don't know if we're going to have the kind of wiggle room going forward, which does concern me because Wayne's absolutely right. It's like 3 times the cost of what we normally pay. So we just need to get the town to get behind us and support us on those vehicles, because the vehicles and the drivers, I really think would be a great first step.
So you had to send the town the capital improvement.
They asked me for the draft. It's gone to planning. It went in February, and then it was reviewed again, I think, with some questions in March. So it's supposed to now come to the full board. I do think because planning has also been dealing with the redistricting, that it might just have gotten didn't get to the forefront. I'm not really sure. Yeah, that would really be great, and then we can formally send it over, and let's hope our budget at least we get what we're asking for, and then we'll have those positions in there as well, which would be great. If you think of anything and anyone comes up with any great ideas, I'm happy to look into them. Just, you know where to find me. I'm usually chained to my desk. I don't get out very often. Today, I actually got out of the office and went over to the best luncheon, which was lovely. It was nice to get out of the office for a little while. But anything else? Okay, I'm now running over to Stratford High School, so I appreciate you putting me first on the agenda. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just so we're being transparent, I think Tony and I do the best we can in terms of scheduling our athletic events to coincide with what Durham can provide in terms of transportation. There's just some athletic events that can't be pushed back till 5, 6, 7 o'clock for start time. Cross country, track and field, golf. We're kind of at the mercy of Mother Nature, the facilities or venues that we use. But we do try to be as fiscally responsible, in terms of scheduling our games that we can to coincide with what Durham can provide in terms of transportation.
Usually, we are able to get buses after 3:45. So if another school is allowing us to get there later. Now it's a little bit easier because we have more daylight.
Right.
We're trying to push, like I just pushed a tennis match back to a 5 o'clock start, which I couldn't have done early April, but
Because of transportation.
because of transportation,
Terrible.
so.
How many towns let their parents drive their students? I know it would be tough here, but is it somewhat common?
I know there's at least one within our league
Hmm.
that does it on a fairly regular basis in the event that they can't provide transportation. We have personally at Bunnell hosted games on weekends where kids have just shown up on their own without a team bus or a school issued bus, and it becomes a responsibility of either the student as the driver or the parent to be able to drop them off at the facility.
The problem,
No, go ahead.
the problem we also face, to be quite honest, is that our league, the way it's designed, there's 3 schools that Wayne and I have that are within a 15-minute radius. The next closest is Massac, which is a half an hour away, and everything after that is 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes away. So it's not like it's a quick jump to get over there. It puzzled me when I first came to Stratford that Shelton and Trumbull and the Bridgeport schools and Milford, none of them are in our league, and they're all the bordering towns. That would be great for competition-wise, and that's a whole different issue. But it's just we don't have any local opponents.
Someday that might have to be a discussion. We can't get the kids to a game. It used to be that way. Everything was local here.
Yeah.
Bridgeport, Milford, like you said, yeah. That's terrible.
I just question the liability of parents driving or kids
Or
driving
students.
themselves.
Kids driving themselves is a big liability.
Right,
Um,
but you never know. Yeah, my mom drove me, so that's the red flag that I is there.
We do allow parents, though, if they sign a form, there's an alternate transportation form that's district-wide, where parents sign that, get that to the coach at a time, they're able to bring their child home from an event.
Right.
If we're in New Milford, and let's say they have a family event going on in that area, they can do that, so we
Leave the
do let them
game,
do that.
Yeah, leave the game, but go into the game. Got it.
Sure.
Move on to B, and, just athletic updates.
Okay, I think we last met in January, so I'll just do a winter recap or highlights. We had a really successful wrestling season. One thing I'm very proud of at Stratford, we've now introduced women's wrestling into the program, and it's grown. And this year we had our first all-state female wrestler, Lindsay Rywall. She won the Eastern States competition in New York, where she defeated the number 13 ranked girl nationally. She was named. She won the state tournament, and she won the regional tournament, New England's, and was named the most outstanding wrestler. So it's kind of an exciting time for her as she's looking to go to college next year, or maybe do post-grad and then go on. Our cheer team came in 3rd in the Southwest Conference competition, and they came in 6th in the state, and they were selected to compete for Team of the Year, where they came in the 20s in the whole state of Connecticut, which I was really proud of them. They also had 2 all-state cheerleaders. Our dance team placed 3rd in the Southwest Conference and 3rd in the state, and were selected to go to the regionals in Vermont, where they competed and ended up placing 6th in the whole New England region. For spring sports, we had actually a classic baseball duel yesterday at Bunnell. His pitcher, we can talk more about Carlo Maselli, had a perfect game going into the 6th inning. My pitcher, Ethan Hill, stayed with him, and we ended up, Stratford ended up winning 1-0 in 8 innings, but I think the game was over in about an hour.
It was a super quick game, but
Yeah.
yeah, extra innings.
My baseball team is doing their annual Fans for a Cure game for prostate cancer awareness. And talk show host Ed Randall, if you've ever listened to WFAN, he does MLB broadcasts. He comes down, it's the 3rd year he's going to come down to meet with our team. He gets a picture. We do a whole thing for prostate cancer awareness that day, and all the proceeds from the game go towards that cause. Softball, they are also holding a breast cancer awareness game on Saturday, May 4th. My coach, Gary Sherritt, does an incredible job. He does different, every game has a different theme. different awareness for mental illness one day. Just he does a great job with that. Wanted to talk about my 2 SWC Leadership Award winners, Lauren Obradowitz and Daniel Brennan, will be honored on May 2nd at Vazzi's. Lauren is just an incredible, not only athlete, but person. What she's persevered through, she wouldn't want me to say this because that's not what she uses as a credit. She is deaf. She is going to earn 12 varsity letters in her 4 years at Stratford High School. She's an all-state golfer, 2 years straight. And just today, I just got word from my coach, she just beat the #1 ranked golfer in the league today at Mill River today. A freshman from Weston who was ranked ahead of her, she just beat by 6 strokes. So I'm really proud of her. She's gotten a lot of accolades recently, but deserves them all. She's just an incredible person. Cooper David will be honored as our Unified Sports Athlete of the Year, and Zachary Ryder will be honored as partner. And for our Scholar Athlete Award recipients, we have our valedictorian in tennis and swimmer Gabe Rodriguez, and swimmer Kaylee Foydo, and current goalie Kaylee Foydo will, for the lacrosse team, will be honored at the Apple Turf.
Well said. All right, we had quite an eventful winter, personally and professionally at Bunnell High School. It is amazing how much within the last 2 or 3 years the sport of women's wrestling has really taken off. We have a female wrestler at Bunnell High School who had a very nice year as well. She earned 2nd team All-State in women's wrestling, so we're proud of Matilda Tote for that. Another All-State first teamer was Jordan Ricketts in Division III boys basketball. And then thinking back to the winter, we did recognize 4 football athletes who signed their national letter of intent to go on and play collegiate football. That was Michael DeVito, who's going to be going on to Pace University, Bolo Lembe Abaki, who's going to be going to Winston-Salem State University, Panos Charitopoulos is going to Husson University, and Brian Gonzalez is going to be continuing his football career at Massachusetts Maritime Academy. So really proud of those 4 gentlemen and the efforts that they did over the course of their 4-year tenure at Bunnell. Going to be able to carry on the rich tradition at the next level. Boys basketball is currently on the celebration tour of the Division III state championship, so we were really excited about that. Hope that run to the sun, and I'm surprised not to see you in your t-shirt. I've seen Lisa 2 or 3 times, and I think she's been rocking the same t-shirt that I own, so I certainly appreciate that. But what a tremendous experience for the kids and the student body that was able to join us. Jordan Ricketts was the most outstanding player of the tournament, and he was recognized during the post-game recognition ceremony. At halftime, our Unified Sports team actually traveled up with us and was able to compete in a basketball game at halftime, which was one of the highlights of the weekend, was to be able to go back and watch them during that halftime game take on Lewis Mills. And just a tremendous experience for them, both the athletes and the partners, and we were really proud that they were able to take advantage of that. Thank you to the Board of Ed and the Town Council who recognized the team at 2 very prestigious and welcoming meetings after the championship. And our banquet is going to be set for May 29th at Vazzi's. Ticket information's been sent downtown, and donations in addition to that to help offset the cost of rings. And I know the Stratford Old Timers Association's definitely pitched in, so thank you for that. In terms of just trying to make sure that we recognize this very special accomplishment for the kids. So we're really proud, and we're going to make sure that they don't forget this. This is something that definitely deserves to be celebrated. And my phone just went off. Dr. Graff was messaging me, and I just found out that on May 1st, Representative Dan Cho is going to be taking our team to the state capitol to be recognized as well. So we're looking forward to that. Looking ahead to the spring, Matt Stewart for boys outdoor track and Litzy Montez for girls tennis were recognized as the athlete of the month for the month of April. Megan Camperlango celebrated her 100th career hit last week. Lindsay Bazile won the 2024 Patriot Games pentathlon at Coventry High School last week. It's the first time, to my knowledge, in Bunnell outdoor track history that we had a pentathlon winner. So, the coaches and Lindsay were very proud of that. That was up at Coventry High School. as Tony had talked about, we're kind of creeping into banquet season here, and it kicks off on Monday with our Unified Sports CIAC banquet. So Raphael Heiderek is going to be our athlete who's recognized at that, and Thomas DiMatteo is going to be our Unified Partner recognized. And then later on in the week, we have our SWC banquet where Austin Rotanto is going to be our SWC Athlete of the Year, in addition to Ava Salthouse, who is going to be our Unified Partner of the Year. Our CIAC Scholar athletes include our salutatorian, Megan Kamperlenko, and also Gustavo Oliva. And our SWC Scholar leaders are going to be Annalise Hayden and Luke Ryan. So we're definitely excited to recognize the great things that they've done, both academically and athletically, during their 4 years here at Bunnell. So definitely deserving of those accolades that they're about to receive. The boys basketball team was invited to the Sterling House Community Breakfast that's going to be taking place the same day as our Hall of Fame banquet. So it's going to be a busy day that day in terms of starting early and finishing late, but we're looking forward to it. So we're excited to attend that. Hall of Fame inductees include Ashley Markarski-LeCount, who starred at soccer, then went on to play collegiately, and now is playing professionally out in Wisconsin. So we're excited to recognize her. Mark Harrison, who had a tremendous career, multi-sport, all-state athlete, and then went on to the NFL. He's going to be inducted. And then last but certainly not least, Skip Lance, who's a legend both as an educator and player and coach here in Stratford. So three very deserving inductees that are going to be inducted into this year's class of the Hall of Fame on May 9th. Distinguished Service Award winner is going to be Brian Masser. He was integral in terms of the rebranding that we did for Bunnell High School back in 2017, I think is when it initiated. He's our head custodian at the school and did it all basically out of the goodness of his heart. You know, he didn't charge a dime. He's got a graphic design background. He and I worked very closely in terms of what our vision was for how we wanted to rebrand the school, and his artwork is everywhere in terms of on the field, on the court, on my t-shirt. Just a tremendous guy and very deserving of being recognized for the efforts that he's put forth. And then Kayla Johnson's going to be our Walter Wright Community Service Award winner. She's a senior student athlete in the graduating class, and she is my athletic intern. And her and I have worked very closely over the course of the year in terms of trying to grow our impact social media wise with the athletic department. And she's a phenomenal kid, a finalist in the Rotary Club essay contest, just very deserving to be recognized amongst her peers as one of the outstanding student athletes that we have at Bunnell. Speaking of the senior banquet, we have 71 student athletes who are set to be recognized, which includes 25 four-year varsity letter winners. We have 58 3.2 or higher scholar athlete awards. So really speaks volumes to the emphasis on education-based athletics. Last but not least, boys volleyball, who is in their varsity, first year of varsity, did earn their first win early on in the season. And so they've been gradually building up steam, and there's been a lot of momentum with that sport. I know that Tony's gearing up for going into, I believe, the varsity level next year. On a different note, we have a student athlete within that program who has a family member that's battling childhood cancer. So their team does plan on doing a childhood cancer awareness event where the athletic department, in conjunction with the team, is going to be donating the proceeds and raising money to help that family out. So more information on that will be released once that date has been set, but it is in the works to try to support that family in terms of the medical expenses that they're incurring right now. So, that in a nutshell is what's going on at
How
Bunnell.
many SWC teams have volleyball for this sport?
As far as I know, there's 10. Yeah, 10 out of 13.
And we're basically 1 year behind where Bunnell was. Now we have a volleyball club. We actually played Harding the other day and won 3-0. So it's a JV game, but it's a start.
You get a full team?
You think you will, yeah?
We had 11 kids come out for it right now. The good thing is now that it's in the works, more kids were coming out later and saying, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to do that next year."
We have varsity and JV, and we had to cut.
Really?
Wow. Yeah. My only concern is that we start to draw from other sports and detract from, being competitive across the board and
And I just wanted to say, you know, now that Wayne brought up the Hall of Fame dinner, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention ours. We have ours on May 8th, Wednesday at Fozzy's. The Hall of Famers that are getting inducted are our all-time leader in girls lacrosse, Abby Cerrone, who played in college, and she basically tore it up when she was here in Stratford in the early 2000s. And Ron Christie Jr., who was all-state in football and in basketball, played overseas after college, and then played for the Harlem Globetrotters briefly. He's getting inducted. For our Special Service Award, Longtime Distinguished Service Award, is going to Dan Volturno, who, if you've ever gone to a Stratford game, he mans the clock or scoreboard for basically every event that I have. Also subs in when I need him for anything. He worked with the Breakettes for like 20 years. Has been a longtime friend to Stratford. And for our Community Service Award winner, it's going to be going to Jackie Sherrick, former softball coach for me, but PE teacher. She's a lead teacher. She does everything behind the scenes. She's the class advisor for every senior class that's come through Stratford the last probably 15 years, and does so much for the athletic program.
Just a quick random question. The partners with your unified students, are they traditional athletes or are they just regular students who have some athletic inclination to help?
Could be either.
More often than not, they're student athletes.
Okay.
I've had a mixture, I got to say. Most of the time, yes, they are, but sometimes they're not actually, current athletes.
And are you guys doing any boys volleyball clinics at all? Do you guys do in the summer or anything like that? Right.
So this is new.
Yeah, no, it is,
It's funny how when I look at Benell and Stratford, like our girls volleyball signups have exploded, where we have a freshman team. Boys volleyball, I can't tell you all the announcements I made trying to get younger kids, not just seniors, to come down. I'm hopeful now. My girls volleyball coach has taken over to be the advisor of this club. So now there's a lot more interest because she knows the game, and the boys were really receptive to it. Starting to get some more kids involved. So I'm hoping it takes off from there. She's more than willing to work with kids over the summer in clinics and things like that.
Yeah, I know that both of my boys volleyball coaches have expressed an interest in trying to get something off the ground and running this summer in terms of a boys volleyball introduction course, so that we can introduce these kids to the game earlier, prior to getting to high school, so that hopefully they have some content and background knowledge.
Who are your boys coaches on?
Dan Romanello
Oh.
and Nick DeSilva, both teachers at Benell High School.
And mine is Lisa Bucher.
She does all of her stuff with
Yeah,
the
right,
girls.
right.
So we do a ton for the girls, but we don't do anything for the boys right now. So if we can do stuff in the winter time with the boys now, then it's a win-win for everyone.
I guess that kind of leads into for the feeder programs and just questions or anything like that, but sounds like that might be a good idea as something clinic for the boys.
Wayne mentioned this earlier. There is a concern with spring sports that I have. I think I don't want to speak for you, Wayne. I'm sure I know what you feel about one of them. Boys lacrosse. Stratford had a total of, I think, 8 kids go out for boys lacrosse. Now you would think with that our numbers for track would be through the roof, or baseball, and they really didn't improve that much. We have a decent group for track. It's maybe up a couple of kids, but nothing dramatic. And my concern is that here we are as a co-op for boys lacrosse, and we're really not even competitive this year as a co-op. And I don't know where the feeder programs are for boys lacrosse, but it's something that I think, if we don't want to lose the sport, especially like with volleyball coming in, if its popularity is growing, and with boys, and if more and more kids go to volleyball, we're going to lose more and more kids from baseball and lacrosse and other sports, maybe. And my concern is I don't want to take volleyball to lose boys lacrosse as a sport in Stratford.
Does Sterling House still have boys and
Yes.
girls?
We do.
Is it full?
Senior boys, which is at junior high level, has 9 kids.
Yeah.
And with the roster of 11, so they've pulled up from their juniors. So next year you're gonna hurt as well. But in 2 years, when those junior boys get to your level, if they're still playing lacrosse, that team has 20 kids. So right now we're in this lull period. Last year, it was John Carafa and all his buddies were like, hey, you're athletic, come play. And then this year has this big drop, but hopefully in a couple of years it'll
I
happen.
think the problem too is, my own children go through the Stratford Storm program, is that a lot of the kids, they love it, but then the high school option comes available and you should know any sports, the St. Joe's and the Fairfield Preps and the
Yeah.
Notre Dames are swiping them because they see these kids, they competed against them. I know like on the teams for the Storm my daughters have played on, we've won, we've beaten all of those towns in league games and they're seen. And
You stole my thunder, because I was about to say of that 20, the top 4 or 5 kids are probably not going to go to Stratford High or Bunnell High School. They're going to go where they can, anticipate a strong lacrosse career.
Absolutely.
We're facing the same challenge with girls basketball right now. Our girls basketball program has been down for the last couple of years, and that there is talent that comes up through Flood and St. Mark's. And I've told my coach, be patient. At some point the tide will turn, and those girls who come up through the program and are playing basketball will stay and go to the Bunnell, stay on the Bunnell track. It looks as though, from who I've spoken to, that we're going to get a couple girls that actually stick with it and end up at Bunnell. But every year we're losing the top 2 or 3 girls for girls basketball to Notre Dame or Fairfield, to Warrenton Hall, to St. Joe's. It's really,
A lot of options.
I feel like we've had this conversation for the last 8 years that I've been here in terms of fighting that losing battle of the parochial schools in the area and trying to keep our kids going to our respective schools.
I think one of the frustrating things from managing the sports programs here is that you have some certain sports, obviously the Bell basketball, Stratford has had basketball teams that have won the state. Those are fine. They're gonna replenish. There's gonna be up years and down years, but it's gonna be fine. Football will be fine. But there's a lot of other sports that we play each other and one of us beats the other team, and then we lose everybody else in the conference, and our kids are just looking forward to the one game against Bunnell that there's a chance to win, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's demoralizing to the kids a lot of times, and I just don't want to see that happen with too many programs, because it really makes kids not want to come here. It creates a system where parents don't want to send their kids to Stratford or Bunnell because if it's sports related, they're looking at our record and saying, maybe the private school's a better option.
Is there any talk of changing your conference? Is the other conference any weaker, say?
Stronger.
Is it? Okay.
I don't think that's the problem.
Yes. Well, the problem is we have 2 high schools. That's the problem.
Everybody views the consolidation and the co-op as being the answer to our lack of competitiveness. And what few people fail to understand is you can't co-op based out of a need of being competitive. It's purely based on numbers and insufficient numbers to field a program. The lacrosse minds had anticipated, if we just consolidated and co-opt, we're going to be competitive. And I love my brand new coach, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that they're going to win a game all year. They're just that overmatched in terms of that particular sport. There are sports that Tony and I have had some conversations, just preliminary at this point, in terms of, if the numbers were to fit, potentially co-oping additional sports. But the general public thinks that, if our teams are bad, let's just co-op, and that's just unfortunately not the case.
Is there anything to say for like the unity of the team year over year, like lacrosse, new coach, inconsistency of players from year to year, they're not playing on JV together, they're not moving up to varsity together. Is there anything to say with that at all coming into play?
We don't even have enough kids to form a JV team at this point.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying the
but
idea of
yeah.
that, like basketball, like if you're on the freshman team,
Yeah.
you're with these 5 guys. Now these 5 guys in the JV, I'm
Yeah.
just saying that the idea of that, like,
It's gotten to the point that whoever comes up through the lacrosse program here in town is gonna, whoever's left after those have gone to the other other schools. In my opinion, that's the consistency of the unity that you speak of. They've come up through, and they're going to be on the same team if they stick with it for the 4 years.
Right.
You know, it's just
not enough.
unfortunately the overall talent of what we have right now just isn't competitive with some of the other programs that we're matched up against.
Yeah, absolutely.
My vision to help improve this, like a realistic vision, is for those sports. I want to be clear, not every sport. We're not talking about basketball, we're not talking about football, but for sports that are on the verge where we should co-op, if you really want to improve everything, I think that the funds we save from co-oping those sports, if we could create a middle school program where the kids learn the sport then and they're not coming into 9th grade, not knowing how to throw a baseball or catch a baseball, not knowing how to what a lacrosse stick looks like. That's how we bridge the gap to being competitive.
Yeah, I hear you. You know, my grandson's only 7 years old. He's playing in Milford. So what happened was the coach says, "Oh, I'm going to take a couple of you kids and bring you over to Milford," and then the other kids that his teammates or classmates are stuck here in Stratford. Now, I don't think that's fair. I hear complaints that the kids don't even know how to catch a ball in 9th grade or throw a ball. So what is going on with these leagues in the town? You know what I mean? Is it that weak? The Little League and when I was growing up, there was Babe Ruth League, Pony League, Bronco, all that. Now are those leagues gone? You know what I mean?
I mean, the travel ball has taken everybody out of the town.
Yeah.
I can speak, I played Legion baseball in Hampton. It was a big deal to play Legion baseball back then. Now you can't even get Legion together because there's so many privatized leagues, where they're pretty good at selling a bill of goods to you that, you're gonna get drafted or get a college scholarship if you play for them, even if you're 8 years old, so, some of them are good, but the talent has been dwindled down as they've created so many different teams.
And you guys are having that problem with the baseball then?
Yeah. And that's a problem. Baseball won't get co-opted anytime soon because, as Wayne said, it's not about talent, it's about who signs up. So when I have a kid that signs up and he goes to put the glove on, he says he's a lefty, but because he puts the glove on the left hand, he doesn't know the difference.
Yeah.
And he's a freshman, he's part of the numbers that count towards the CIAC, whether whether he makes the team or not, so that they're going to use that against us as a co-op.
No, I hear you. Even like having the middle school sports, that was the best thing. Because when I was a school resource officer at Worcester, I coached the baseball team, and the talent was pretty good. It was us against Flood or when we traveled for. But that was the best thing, and I wish they would bring that back in the middle schools. I'm 100% behind that for you guys. The kids could use that.
Those extra 2 years, whatever they get, is a big difference.
Because what's happening is they're getting to that threshold. What I'm seeing in the rec side is they're getting to that threshold of 6th grade, now 7th grade, 8th grade. They're not playing
There's a
anymore.
gap.
So if we're not filling it with public school, they're not signing up on their own for rec unless they really like a sport, So there's definitely a missing 2 years there until we get to you.
So rather than an idea, is there any action that we can take as a
That's what I was
group?
gonna say, what do you guys feel from us that you need as a committee?
I mean, in terms of the middle school sports programs, the financial implications, your coaches, your equipment and uniforms, and then they're faced with the same issues that we're dealing with at the high school level in terms of travel, getting transportation to games. I would love to see it, don't get me wrong, because I think it would benefit, as Catherine had said, it would transition those kids from the community-based athletics into organized middle school athletics, and then hopefully, prep them a little bit better for getting to the high school level. I just don't know how we overcome that financial implications, at the middle school level.
I think it starts by assessing what sports at the high school really should look into co-oping. And there's a couple, and maybe with the funds we save for having maybe one coach instead of two. I think middle school, they don't have to go to New Milford or New Fairfield, they can go local because it's middle school. They don't have to, not the Southwest Conference, so they can go to all the local towns, so it doesn't have to be a transportation issue where we're going far. But maybe if we could, reallocate some of the funds for sports like that, we could bring back some middle school sports.
Maybe start with the sports that don't cost a lot. Maybe
Soccer.
volleyball, soccer.
Volleyball,
right,
yeah.
right. Track stuff.
I know we do have a middle school track program right now because, we're hosting, that meet is actually Saturday morning.
Right.
Do
They
you guys
do
do
cross
that?
country,
Do you do
they do
soccer?
cross country, track and basketball.
They do
These are
basketball.
three.
Yeah. Not the
Is there
not
any-
the sports.
In order to expand that, is there any data that suggests it's working? Meaning those kids carry on after the middle school track program's booming?
I mean, our track programs, our girls have 60-plus kids and our boys have 50-plus kids. I think the retention from middle school to high school is very strong.
So it's really just to expand what you're already doing, what we are already doing, and to identify another sport or two.
I think skill set sports should be a concentration. I mean, if you're a good athlete and you can run, I think you could pick it up in high school. Not to say I want to get rid of a track program in the middle school. Don't get mad, emotional Eddie. I'm not trying to say that, but I think with skill sports, if there's a gap and you don't play, it's tough to start up again as a ninth grader. And I think the more skilled sports we can get, into the middle school, it would be beneficial going forward.
I personally, I think, would like to see soccer added to the fall.
Yeah.
That's a relatively,
Inexpensive.
low-cost,
Yeah.
inexpensive sport to add to the schedule. And as you had said, play a reduced schedule where maybe you only get them 6 games, 3 home and 3 away, where you only have to find transportation 3 times. And then, in the spring, we do an assessment in terms of what we feel might have a better impact, whether it be baseball, softball, or volleyball, and do a spring volleyball. I don't know how many middle schools right now have boys volleyball, boys and girls, but that's a sport that's relatively inexpensive. Most schools already have the nets and the volleyballs from their PE programs. You could certainly put together a team rather inexpensively.
Do you think doing type of survey as an actionable item to get that
Yeah.
feedback would be helpful?
Yeah, I mean, I could certainly reach out to the ADs within the league and find out.
But even internal too, like
Yeah.
what the kids want, what the students want, or from the parents.
What they want and what you guys see,
Yeah.
like the trend you guys see, because I completely agree with you on the
Yeah.
soccer thing.
Yeah.
Like my girls played girls soccer this year, they haven't played soccer since Sterling House, and they were little, but they were like, it wasn't enough. And they played and they had a great time, and they relearned. Thankfully, they had lacrosse skills, so they,
If you're athletes, right, yeah.
but it's,
Another thought too is, we've talked to the Worcester principal a bunch of times about additional clubs in the middle school. We've been thinking outside the box, like the Dragons, chess, basketball pickup. Like, we just don't have the staff at Sterling House to do that. Like, we would love to do that and be in the school every day after school. But maybe like it's trickled, like it's an after-school club for 6 weeks, 3 days a week. You catch the late bus or whatever it is. And maybe that's tier 1 or tier 1, and then tier 2 is now we have funding or fundraisers or whatnot for, even just to get an 8th grader to touch a ball in a club is better than not doing anything at all.
Yeah.
So there's a thought as well. So,
And to be honest with you, even if Flood and Worcester were playing each other most of the time, it's still games. It's still, so when you talk about busing and everything, it could be, half the schedule could be within the town and it would still.
Something is better than nothing at this point.
And as Catherine said, it builds that unity, they're there 2 years and bringing that to the high school and, going from sport to sport.
And we've also talked about our high school coaches being able to connect with travel programs, Stratford Pal, et cetera. That's another opportunity for our high school programs to be able to get down to the middle school levels and start to implement some of their fundamental concepts so that these kids are better prepared by the time they get up to the high school level.
too, if there was money or a stipend for the off-season, like say your soccer coach does spring soccer club at the middle school, if they're not coaching the spring, like you do it off-season, and again, maybe you're not playing, you're playing flood 3 times, and you're not playing other schools, but just to start, maybe you're doing an off-season with your high school coach, I don't know.
Have other towns decreased their sports programs in middle school?
It's usually the first thing cut
Right.
when they go through this.
Yep.
I think Wayne and I can get a better feel. We can reach out to the athletic directors in our conference and, you know, locally find out.
Is it too late to talk about soccer in the fall? Try to pull that off at Flood, Worcester as a pilot or club?
I mean, I can certainly reach out to who I would tab as the lead at Flood and gauge his interest in it. I know that he's on board in terms of getting middle school sports available to the kids. It's always just been a funding issue.
It wouldn't be fair to ask what something like that might cost, but I'm gonna ask you just for kicks, because there might be ways to get money.
Yeah. I mean,
Say it was just Flood, Worcester, 3 games, and any other middle school that wants to come in, we won't go out.
yeah.
Coach, ref,
You know, your coaching stipend for that is probably going to run anywhere from $500 to $1,000.
for the 2 months.
Yeah, maybe you do a 6 or an 8 week program, or shortened season, if you will. Your officials, depending on what level you get,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I would say anywhere from 50 to 70. It might be an opportunity to tap into, you know, Sterling House and their resources, you know, with whatever student officials that you know
Yeah.
you use.
That is
Gives them an opportunity to get paid, but it also gives them some more experience in terms of honing their craft as officials.
So far up to 2,000.
I would say if you estimated roughly $3,000, I would think that would be sufficient to execute about an 8-week season. Under the pretense that you're not going to travel, you know, either you're going to keep it in town or people are going to come to you, which I think, you know, the other schools within the league that have middle school soccer programs would be open to do just to, you know, fill out their schedule.
Doesn't sound terrible. You want to try to do it?
Let's get some feedback from your, and then bring that to me. We can kind of go from there.
And then-
It's a really, I mean, I know it's like the actionable items that we want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but again, like, is there a motion that we need to make or something, because the next meeting's September 19th,
can't-
and we
right.
need to
Right.
work on this like
Yeah.
tomorrow.
So maybe after, is there any chance we could even have a Zoom 5-minute meeting?
Yep.
Just like try to go get some money. Try to go find $3,000 somehow.
I'd be more than happy to reach out to my contact at Flood.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that he has a counterpart at Worcester. Yep.
Yeah.
And, you know, see where they stand. I have a strong inkling that they would be on board. Yep.
And then we bring that over to the board and,
Yep.
yeah.
Then it's just a matter of finding the
So it's
funding.
There's-
3,000 per gender, so think of it that way too. So it's really 6,000.
Yep.
There's also some flexibility with this because it's not.
Well, it's not 6, it's 12, because you got 2 schools.
Two schools.
There you go.
But there is flexibility because if you've had complications with field use, the coaches not being able, you could always flip it where we do it in the spring. You know, it's a middle school sport, we can see, you know. If there's other schools that have programs, because people kind of work within the guidelines that they have.
Yeah, but let me reach out to them and I'll make sure that, you know, whatever feedback I get gets communicated out to the group, and then, you know, we can decide from there how we want to tackle it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Hopefully we can put something together in May or.
Yeah. I mean, if the funding's there, I'm sure that they would be on board and trying to get this off the ground.
Joan, just out of curiosity, because I'm not from Stratford originally, were there a lot of middle school sports in the past at Flood and Worcester?
When I was in high school, we had soccer, baseball, they didn't have basketball, no, they did have basketball. All 3 seasons, it was the same, they didn't have track and field though. It was just soccer, basketball, and baseball. Do you know when some of those were cut? I know not in the last 2 years, but I was curious when baseball, soccer was cut.
Middle school, right?
I was curious, but,
Good 10 years, I think.
yeah.
I was gonna say, I've been here for 8
Yeah.
as the AD,
Is
and
the basketball still going on?
Yes.
Are they
Yeah.
traveling, playing other middle schools?
Yeah.
Because that was always good too, that was great. It was
If you want to look at a correlation,
And,
that's
yeah.
our most successful
And I
sport
think
in
that,
town.
yeah, that definitely
Well, that's right.
translates into
Yeah.
that, into the basketball at the high school level.
Baseball ended back, probably 12 years ago or better.
Are you guys privy to that budget of what boys middle school basketball and girls middle school basketball in each school is?
That would be the seasonal athletic
It's a
director
seasonal
at each of the
athletic
schools.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that would oversee that from a budget standpoint.
Yeah.
I
Because
mean,
then
I'm
if we
sure
get
that you
actual
should probably get your
funding-
hands on what they're
As it is.
allocated.
Well, they're not allocating enough money as it is.
Yeah.
No, I get that, but if we know what it costs to run.
Because that was an argument I made last year to increase the middle school's athletic budget, because they just didn't, they can't, and,
But if we knew like what that number was, is it actually 3, is it more like 6 for a full season?
Is that
our
something
budget
you
book
think you
can
could
show.
get your,
I
yeah,
give me,
Okay.
I can give, yeah, we can get that, we have that in our budget.
Okay, perfect.
Can we get them to join this group or a meeting, perhaps, next meeting? The two seasonal
the
athletic
seasonal?
directors?
yeah, I mean, I could certainly
Yeah.
invite, the one contact that I have at Flood, and, I think he would be all on board in terms of joining this conversation and trying to spearhead this middle school level.
So we'll take a look at the budget books in that area, and then, kind of just get back to us in terms of what they say, and then maybe we can.
Yes, I'll reach out to them, and then in addition to that, I'll reach out to the schools within our league and find out how many middle school programs are offered at the schools within the SWC. And
We can find that out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Any other open, next open discussion, any other things going on that you guys want?
We have upcoming fall vacancies. I know Catherine, I had already reached out to you, but it's been a struggle for whatever reason to fill our girls soccer and girls volleyball positions. Yeah, both coaches resigned. So,
Volleyball, I forwarded it over to somebody, she said she was gonna think about it and reach out. But girls soccer, I can forward again.
Just to let everyone know, we will have 2 new members joining, hopefully, we're able to schedule our meeting in May. Jamie DeVito and, I was gonna say Mark Durza, because that's a baseball player, Dave Durza. From South, they'll be joining us, so we're excited, thank you again for the recommendation. They'll be very big assets to us.
so the goal at this point is to get together via Zoom in May.
Yep, we'll look at some of the budget books and the budget book, and
Yep.
if you can get us the information.
Absolutely.
Maybe after your award seasons and stuff, Chris. Good name. Alright, any other things before we adjourn? Alright, do we have, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
It's like we might do another golf tournament for soccer.
Right? I was just thinking grants too, like there's gotta be grants out there to write for public school athletics.
Even USA Soccer, I would
Well, I
think
mean,
that.
like, is that Sterling House's help, like, instead of financially, I mean,
Yeah.
can we help with that part of it? Like, if each of us takes this much, maybe we put it together, If I could find you a coach at $800, like, if we all kind of pitch and take a little piece of this, we might be able to chip away.
Yeah, that's a great point in terms of the grants, because I'm sure that USA Soccer has something available in terms of funding for for youth sports to promote their, obviously their sport, but, I've never researched that, but I'm not privy to grant writing. in
They
the
have a
least bit,
lot,
but-
like specific